Welcome to the Create Harmony podcast with Sally Burlington. This is a podcast about setting an intentional rhythm, about savoring life's blessings and learning how to use our imagination as a way of listening to God. If you want to learn more about how to bring stillness and gratitude into your life, you'll probably find a lot here that you love. And if you like to be creative and fun, there is a place for you here as well. In this place, we'll take a few minutes to celebrate everyday joys and remind ourselves how to notice goodness all around us. Welcome back to episode 13 of the Create Harmony podcast. And after all the waiting and watching, the day has come. Christmas arrived at last. The peace of Christ has come to dwell among us once again. What a blessing. There's magic and mystery in the coming of Christmas each year, and all of our celebratory ritual to signal the coming of a tiny, vulnerable baby. But what about the parts of the Christmas season that aren't peaceful? I mean, what about the noise and the stress and the long list of things that must be done quickly? And what about those relatives who bring tension instead of merriment? The ones you dread to see come and look forward to see leave? What about all the power struggles and the jealousy and the addiction issues that haven't been dealt with? What about our financial worries, our ongoing health concerns? What about grief and heartache? What do we make of all those things when we come to these days? And how do we find peace in all that? Now, for further wisdom on this topic, I do not have the answers to all of those questions, but for further wisdom on this topic, we're going to turn to one of my favorite authors, and her name is Morgan Harper Nichols. If you're not already familiar with Morgan, let me introduce you to her work. She's an artist, a poet, a writer, and she wrote several books, but my favorite is called Peace is a Practice, where she shared her deep wisdom on finding peace in an imperfect world. And one of the main things I learned from Morgan's book is that finding peace is not the same as finding perfection. Rather, she says, peace means you are able to find your breath, to stay connected to your very life in the face of rather gritty realism. Wow, that's something. She adds, if it is peace we are looking for, then getting into the gritty details of our feelings and life experiences is where we should start. That means I can have peace even when things are not perfect. She also says peace is not the annihilation of discomfort. Peace is the constant flow of sacred truth. A constant flow of sacred truth. Now, that's a concept that I needed to ponder. First of all, I can't imagine creating a constant flow of anything. It seems like most things in life get interrupted at some point, especially over the last few years. And sacred truth, that seems rather elusive, something that would take pursuit. So to me, this is a good news, bad news situation. The good news is we don't have to have everything perfect in order to find peace. But the bad news is it is going to take work. Well, shoot, I was hoping for an easier path than that. That sounds pretty hard. But before we give up the project altogether, it might be time to circle back to rediscovering our senses and finding small ways to ground ourselves. Those small and simple practices maybe they're the baby steps to point us in the right direction, to help us find our breath again and again each day. And we don't have to do it alone. God is always near. Peace is right where we are, not far away in some complex, exotic locale, right with us all the time. And that reminds me of the ruby slippers that Dorothy wore in The Wizard of Oz. You've had the power all along, my dear. Morgan says, peace is a river the soul longs for, and it is also a practice that is available to us every day. How lovely. So for our closing today, we will repeat the same mindful moment exercise that we did last week. We'll sit with our breath and return to peace. So you can begin by settling your body into your most comfortable position. You might need to shake out your wiggles a little bit so that you can settle yourself into stillness. Think about your whole body and try to release any tension that you can feel yourself holding. Now take your first deep breath. Breathe in possibilities and breathe out gratitude. And sit with that for a moment. Now take another long, deep breath and breathe in beauty and breathe out chaos. Dwell in those possibilities. Take a last deep breath. Breathe in well-being and breathe out sorrow. You are not alone. God is always near. May it be so.
This is the last episode of the Create Harmony podcast for this calendar year. Not the last episode, but just the last episode of this year. We will be back next week with a new episode and a new year. First of all, I want to thank you for joining me in this journey to pursue peace. You cannot imagine the level of deep gratitude that I have that you gave this podcast a chance. And secondly, I will say that I hope that each of you are just catching a few more glimpses of joy and beauty in your day after we've gathered together. God has placed blessings all around us, just waiting to be discovered. The abundance of these blessings is sometimes hard to fully take in. Distractions and devices move us away from basic things that really matter. But hopefully, the peace of Christ has touched your heart anew this holiday season, and you feel ready to start your new year with sharpened senses. And until next time, peace.